At 71, John Travolta made a series of quiet choices that unsettled even those who knew him best. Nothing dramatic, nothing announced, just a gradual letting go. Personal items began finding new homes, not sold or displayed, but gifted. A jacket from Saturday Night Fever went to a young performer he barely knew. A backup white suit from 1977 was mailed anonymously to a Brooklyn dance instructor. A pair of pilot wings, once given to him by Kelly Preston, was handed to a stranger at a charity event. Friends noticed a softness in his eyes, a reflective calm replacing urgency. He wasn't withdrawing from life, but simplifying it. Projects were declined without explanation. Long solo flights became more frequent, not to escape, but to think. It wasn't sadness driving him. It was perspective. After decades of motion, he was choosing stillness, not as an ending, but as a way to understand everything he had already lived. Gratitude instead of explanation. In October 2025, Travolta recorded a short video he titled, "To Everyone Who Believed in Me." There was no announcement, no warning, no attempt to explain himself. His voice wavered as he spoke about gratitude, about dance, about the privilege of being watched and welcomed into people's lives for over 50 years. He didn't frame it as closure or reflection on the future. He simply wanted to say, "Thank you." His daughter Ella worried about how it would be interpreted. His son Benjamin asked if something was wrong. Travolta smiled and said he was just feeling thankful. What people close to him understood was that gratitude had become his language for survival. After so much loss, appreciation felt safer than prediction. The video wasn't a farewell. It was a grounding moment, a man acknowledging the road behind him without needing to define the road ahead. Growing up, where imagination was survival. John Travolta was born on February 18, 1954, in Englewood, New Jersey, the youngest of 6 children in a household where money was tight, but creativity was constant. His father ran a tire shop, working long hours that barely kept the family afloat. His mother, Helen, had once dreamed of acting and turned their living room into her stage. She taught drama classes at home, rehearsing scenes while cooking dinner, filling the house with voices and possibility. Young John watched her transform, seeing how performance could turn exhaustion into power. That transformation became his refuge. Shy, thin, and struggling with a stutter, he learned early that becoming someone else felt safer than being himself. Helen noticed. While others dismissed it as play, she recognized instinct. She told him he had a gift and made sure he never forgot it, even when the world tried to convince him otherwise. Learning to disappear to survive school was not kind to John Travolta. His stutter, his slight frame, and his sensitivity made him an easy target. Lunchtime meant hiding. Recess meant avoidance. Each day taught him how to shrink himself to survive. But at home, something different happened. He performed impressions, skits, characters drawn from television and real life. For those moments, he wasn't the boy being mocked. He was the one being watched. Performance became protection. Helen enrolled him in local theatre, where difference wasn't punished but valued. On stage, his stutter vanished. Under lights, fear dissolved. At 12, during a small community production his mother directed, he experienced something that changed him forever. After his final line, the audience stood. The applause wasn't polite. It was real. In that moment, he understood his purpose. Acting wasn't escape. It was translation, turning pain into connection, invisibility into presence, leaving home before he was ready. At 16, Travolta made a decision that terrified his parents. He dropped out of high school and moved to New York City with little money and no guarantees. He lived in a YMCA room barely large enough for a bed, worked dishwashing jobs, cleaned offices at night, and auditioned constantly. Rejection became routine. Hunger and loneliness were constant companions. There were nights he questioned everything, sitting alone and wondering if he had made a mistake he couldn't undo. But the memory of that standing ovation followed him. He trained relentlessly, studying voice and movement, slowly erasing his stutter through discipline and control. Small theatre roles led to modest paychecks, then slightly bigger opportunities. Nothing came easily, but every step built resilience. By the time television found him, he wasn't just talented, he was prepared, shaped by failure into someone who knew how to endure. When fame arrived too fast. Welcome Back, Cotter turned John Travolta into a television star almost overnight. Suddenly, the kid who had slept on benches was recognised everywhere. Then, Saturday Night Fever arrived and rewrote popular culture. Tony Manero wasn't just a character, he was movement, music, and attitude combined into something electric. Travolta earned an Oscar nomination at 24, becoming one of the youngest ever recognised in that category. Grease followed, brighter and bigger, sealing his place as a global icon. But success arrived faster than understanding. While the world celebrated, he was learning a painful truth. Fame amplifies everything, including loss. As his career soared, his mother quietly battled cancer, protecting him from the truth until it was too late. By the time success felt real, grief had already entered the room, waiting for him. Choices that changed the trajectory. At the height of his fame, Travolta believed instinct would always guide him correctly. He turned down roles that later became defining moments for other actors, fearing typecasting or misjudging risk. Some choices were reasonable, others haunted him. As disco faded, so did public patience. A series of films underperformed, and Hollywood moved on quickly. By his early 30s, he was labelled unreliable, even finished. The fall was sudden and humbling, but it stripped away ego and replaced it with reflection. Travolta learned that success isn't permanent, and failure isn't final. When Look Who's Talking revived his visibility, he took it as opportunity, not validation. He rebuilt carefully, focusing less on image and more on substance. The lesson was simple but lasting. Longevity requires humility, not momentum. The resurrection. No one predicted in 1994 Quentin Tarantino offered Travolta a role few others wanted. Vincent Vega was messy, morally ambiguous, and deeply human. The script was risky, the structure unconventional. But Travolta recognized something familiar in the character, a man drifting, searching for relevance. Pulp Fiction didn't just revive his career, it redefined how he was seen. The performance earned him another Oscar nomination and restored respect he hadn't realized he'd lost. From there, roles like Get Shorty and Face/Off showcased range and confidence. But this time, success didn't consume him. Fatherhood had changed his priorities. Holding his son Jett for the first time mattered more than box office numbers. Fame was no longer the destination. It was just part of the road. Grief that reshaped everything. Nothing prepared John Travolta for losing his son in 2009. Jett's death shattered him in ways no career setback ever could. Grief became physical, disorienting, all-consuming. He stepped away from work, focusing only on family and survival. When Kelly Preston later faced her own private battle with illness, Travolta stood beside her quietly, just as she had stood beside him for decades. Her passing in 2020 left a silence fame could not fill. Yet, even in loss, he honoured her final wish, to keep living fully, to keep finding joy. His focus narrowed to what mattered most: his children, his health and presence. He learned that grief doesn't disappear. It softens, reshapes, and becomes part of who you are. Still dancing, still here today. John Travolta lives more quietly, but not withdrawn. He flies for charity, mentors younger performers, and chooses projects for meaning rather than momentum. When asked about giving away personal items, he explained simply that memories grow stronger when shared. At 71, he understands something few learn early. Life isn't about holding on forever. It's about knowing when to loosen your grip. He isn't saying goodbye, he's making space. The boy who learned to survive by becoming someone else has grown into a man who no longer needs to hide. He keeps dancing, not for applause, but because movement reminds him he's alive. And as long as he can move forward, carrying memory without being crushed by it, John Travolta will remain exactly what he has always been: resilient, human, and unmistakably present.